Many thanks for staying tuned. It's still the conversation here on Lagos Television. Now, according to the Amnesty International, over 10,000 Nigerians have died in military detention across the country since the onset of the Boko Haram insurgency in northeast region of Nigeria. This was made known at a press conference by the country director of Amnesty International, Isa Sanusi. And during that announcement, he did say that the organization has filed a case with the International Court of Justice in The Hague on allegations of crime against humanity by the military. That's what we intend to take a look at on the conversation this morning. And we do have a lawyer and a PR expert in the studio this morning, Barrister Jide Ologun. Thank you for being on the program.
It's my pleasure.
Today.
Thank you too.
Let's start from the very beginning. Of course, this press conference that was addressed by the Amnesty International, and the figure that they gave, 10,000 people alleged to have died in military custody since the onset of Boko Haram insurgency in Nigeria. Of course, you are a lawyer and you know that cases, until proven otherwise, they remain allegations. But for the number quoted, is that a worry for you?
Absolutely. We should be worried, because when you also benchmark that with the number of lives that have been lost through the campaign of the Boko Haram, it's a huge one, talking about human lives. But like you mentioned, even under the Declaration of the Fundamental Human Rights, Universal Declaration, we have this presumption of innocence, because these are criminal allegations that must be proved beyond all reasonable doubt. And I think that is why Amnesty International has gone to the International Court of Justice, because as we speak now, these are just allegations. The Nigerian military has denied, but they are worrisome in nature. It's not just about this. There was also some allegations of reproductive violence of about 10,000 illegal abortions, lethal abortions that were carried out, and they were all denied. And when you talk about denial also, that may be the natural response that you should expect, considering the magnitude of the allegations. But the military also declared that on this current one, that Amnesty International has been invited for the verification of their figures and claims and allegations, and also that the military is doing her best, let me use that expression, and that some officers may not be up to expectation. But generally speaking, and I quite tie with that the military has tried in trying to fight insurgency in Nigeria, except that these side allegations are quite worrisome. And the military is claiming that they've gone by professional standards and by global expectations. And we hope that thorough investigations will reveal that. And that brings me to Amnesty International, because we need to profile Amnesty International. This is a non-governmental organization that came on board in July 1961, a year after Nigeria gained independence. And currently, Amnesty International has about 20 million members across the globe. And they've been fighting for human rights, compliance with human rights dictates across the world, and mounting pressures on government to ensure that the dignity of human life, human rights are complied with. And in 1977, Amnesty International won the Peace Prize and Nobel Peace Prize. And in 1978, the United Nations Prize for defending human rights. So Amnesty International has come a long way, and they are committed to what they do. It's just like we need to also bring in the issue of Nigeria and this issue of insurgency management. There had been issues, and that is why Amnesty is really focusing on those practices. I recall that a few years back, even the military threatened to sack UNICEF. In fact, it was done, but withdrawn after some stakeholders intervened. So we must be seen to be transparent in our campaign against insurgency. But our discussion for today is on Amnesty International, and I may just want to say that even the motive behind the Boko Haram campaign in Nigeria should be queried. And let's be sure that we don't even have those who have strong bias and support for this terrorism against Nigeria. And that is why it's been difficult to manage it. But under this current
administration,
government, I think we are making progress, and we hope that will be sustained, because we can all see the impact of insecurity on our economy, on attracting foreign direct investments, and generally on having the fulfillment of the mandate of the Constitution in Section 14, subsection 2 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, that says clearly that the security and the welfare of the citizens shall be the primary purpose of government.
Okay, looking at the track record of Amnesty International and the reputation of the organization, would you say that these figures are exaggerated, like it's been raised in some quarters? Or if you look at what they have done over the years in terms of getting their records straight and, of course, their investigations right, would you say that the defense being put up by the Nigerian military is genuine?
You know, like I mentioned, naturally, you expect the denial. But again, if the Nigerian military is of the conviction that these are lies against the military, they can go to court. That is an issue. Right now, Afe Babalola is in court challenging the claims
of Dele.
So that's the way it should be. And that is why I said also that the military has disclosed that we have invited Amnesty International to come. Let's see. But from the track record of Amnesty International, they do thorough investigations and research in the allegations of the reproductive violence. Some of the victims were interviewed. They have their data and records, but that is not to say that those evidences and that they are conclusive. You have the fundamental right also to challenge these claims, and that is why I started by saying that even under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, one of the rights there is the presumption of innocence. So right now, these are just allegations. But then, if they are real, it's worrisome.
Right.
And again, if you want to profile what we have even found ourselves as a nation, of some military officers extending weapons to insurgents and all those, we should be worried. But my global concern and hope and expectation is that Nigeria will overcome this insurgency and all the ugly testimonies around it, so that we can make progress as a nation and enjoy the prosperity that God mandates for the people of the country.
You just told us now that the military had asked the Amnesty International to come before it and, of course, tender their evidence. And here, Amnesty International is saying that it's regretting how the military denied the involvement of its personnel in the atrocity after being served with the amnesty report before it was made public.
Exactly. And being served is different from, come, let us reason together. You can see what is going on in the National Assembly now. The tax reforms bill. Yeah, the group behind it claimed to have consulted for about 14 months, about 80 professional bodies before even pushing it to the floor of the National Assembly. But right now, there are consultations going on. Okay, let's come together, let's look at it. The northern stakeholders are saying, okay, let's focus on the gray areas of some of the proposed provisions in the law. So the doors of consultations are open, and Amnesty has come to say, even before we went public, we submitted this report to you. What have you done about it? So we are waiting for them to meet again. But these claims are out there. And like I said, given the stature of Amnesty and the track record, you see, they must have done a thorough investigation. So whether we want to admit it is another thing. But again, when you talk about international diplomacy and consequences management, it should be traumatic to admit those allegations.
To admit.
Because they are huge.
Huge, right.
Huge.
Jide, one of the aftermath of the press conference by Amnesty International, the Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, had also decried prolonged investigation of the Nigerian military by the ICC, tagging it unjust, meaning that this formal report that the Amnesty International intends to make to the ICC is not the first time they will be reporting the Nigerian military in that, judging from the response of the Attorney General of the Federation. And so if we take what the Attorney General said and where ICC stands, does it mean that the Nigerian military, in the face of international organizations such as Amnesty, does not have a good ranking when it comes to the violation of human rights or abuses against humanity?
If those allegations are standing and they have not been exhausted by way of dealing with them, then you expect to encounter ugly imagery and reputation. So that is why you need to proceed and prove those cases. And we are talking about insecurity and the military right now. You look at the global perception about the nation, which will also form the impression in the international community, you know, which of course affects foreign direct investment, you know, and there was a trending issue on that recently, that about 27 out of the 36 states in the country failed to record any FDI. You know, those are issues. And then, like it said in a Chinese maxim, you cannot carve a rotten wood. So if your reputation becomes questionable, you need to firm it up. You know, and then another Chinese maxim says, the best time to have planted a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is now.
Is now.
Nigeria should sit down now. And my advice, like I said earlier, please, must this insurgency continue? Are we claiming we cannot deal with it? You know, some of us have spoken, reading through the lines of some expressions of some frontline leaders in Nigeria and the strong bias for the wickedness against the land. If you have issues like this, go ahead and deal with it. Because while profiling these trending allegations, the international communities will sit down and say, okay, at a time, Dubai claimed they identified 6 sponsors of Boko Haram. They were investigated, prosecuted, and all jailed. Okay, the same country that is a direct victim of this terrorism claimed to have identified over 400. How many of them have been prosecuted? You see, these are questions that when you come to profiling, you do thorough. If we choose not to be thorough, then that doesn't stop international communities from being thorough. So the burden is on us to prove that, yes, we are solid in our approaches, and it's something beyond mere denials that we have. You know, if somebody has presented some figures and statistics, present your own. Okay.
Ajibola, please permit me to still stay on this and read out part of the Attorney General of the Federation's pleading, and then I'd like for Jide to please just weigh in on that. A press release was sent out, and I quote here. He said, While we respect the court's mandate to intervene when states are unable or unwilling to prosecute such crimes, it is important to emphasize that there must be respect and regard to the principle of complementarity. The ICC is meant to act as a court of last resort, intervening only when national legal systems are unable or unwilling to address grave crimes. I must assert that Nigeria does not fall under any such situation. Our nation has consistently demonstrated both the will and the capacity to investigate and prosecute serious crimes, including those committed by Boko Haram and other terrorist groups. We are proud of the Nigerian military, which has systems and structures in place to ensure their operations are guided by international humanitarian law and human rights principles. End of quote. Can you make sense out of this and then, put this side by side with these allegations from the Amnesty International?
I am extremely proud of the Nigerian military. I trust in the capacity. You remember the days of ECOMOG and things like that. I love my country. I love the military. But you see, let me take up the Attorney General on the issue of will, not capacity. When you talk of capacity is there because our institutions should be well funded. I just mentioned the case of sponsors of Boko Haram. What did the country do? I mean, these are issues. The case of Ekweremadu is still there. What happened? In respect of the Nigerian environment, talking about the will and capital of the nation to handle, so if you cannot handle it. You see, it's now I appreciate what the Attorney General is doing. It's gone to court in respect of local government autonomy. It's gone to court in respect of some states, spearheaded by Kogi State, attempting to prevent EFCC from investigating and demanding accountability at state levels, those interventions. But we are talking of issues of global concern.
Right.
The world is concerned about what is going on. Look at what just happened in Syria. Assad has disappeared because Russia is busy with her own battles with Ukraine.
Right.
And Russia has been a strong supporter of Assad. It's going to shake the system of the world. So we even before the days of globalization, what affects one nation affects other nations. And these are issues. So you must be seen to have strong implementations, effective implementations of your laws.
Okay.
And that is where the will
comes in. So I am challenging the Attorney General now. That can we start now as a nation? Can we start with the cases of the oil thieves? How many of them do Nigerians even know? How many of them have been? We read almost every time how some people were arrested with liters of crude oil and things. So all these arrests, who are their sponsors? These are questions the world is asking. Who are the people sponsoring? I was reading something about Mahama, the new president-elect in Ghana. When he was in office, I think between 2012 and 2015, a minister was just expressing her intention to move some money. The man sacked the minister. She did not move the money. She was just dreaming about it. The man sacked her, and here we are. What has happened to Beta Edu? We haven't heard on that case.
And we will say they are just allegations. Prima facie cases in law. And they are just allegations. Who are the oil chiefs in this country? Who are the sponsors? Who are the people killing Nigerians, beheading farmers? Who are they? So you see, I've said it, the world
is watching.
Is made up of nations. Some nations have chosen to progress, and they won't stop progressing because some nations do not want to. I think someone should be concerned about our indebtedness and all the economic issues that have plagued us. And that's why I'm happy about what is going on in this country now, because when some of us started expressing our concern, it was like, hey, what is wrong with this young man? You can see the northern governors and elite now complained about the tax reforms that it will make their people poorer. So why should your people be poor with the resources we have? I asked that question. When the former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, was telling the world that he went after the Fulani to pay them not to embark on reprisal attacks. What did Nigeria do about it? You see, when a frontline elder statesman in this country, in 2013 specifically, go and do the content analysis, said that clampdown on Boko Haram is injustice to the north, what signal were you sending to those people? When Yusuf started this mentality of Boko Haram, Western education is forbidden, in year 2000 or thereabout, what were the people around there? I gave the instance of southwestern Nigeria. Some people came up and said they are for Yoruba nation. You saw how the elders in the southwest said no. They uprooted their intentions. That is how to be a great leader. So if we have allowed terrorism to fester in an environment and you are now complaining about poverty, then enjoy the sweet honey of your poverty. That's my position. If some people are defending their territories and you cannot defend your own, who do you blame for that?
Okay.
I mean, these are questions. These are questions. So these allegations are, Nigeria can be great. It depends on the leadership.
Right.
So projection, those of us who research, okay, now you want to research about the countries that are most transparent in the world. You start reading about Sweden, about Switzerland, about Netherlands, about Norway, about some of those countries. They are there. Singapore. They are there. Go Google. We have a lot.
I'm going to quote you now. You said earlier that the world is watching. Yeah. And when you look at the body language of the administration, rather, Mr. President had been everywhere looking for investors to come into the country. Just yesterday, he still hosted the German president. With these huge reports of Amnesty International, how do you think those who might want to be interested in coming into Nigeria to deal with us, how are they going to perceive Nigeria?
You know, let me start by commending Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. I'm quite impressed with his move to attract investments in Nigeria. And let me just say this, getting to the top is not as easy as remaining at the top. The German president is here now. Great. And there are promises about energy intervention. But we had that under Buhari also.
The Siemens agreement.
So how do we concretize this brilliant partnership? The Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations that was activated in 2016 or thereabout and will be evaluated in 2030, otherwise known as Agenda 2030. Has a goal for international partnership. Nigeria is a beautiful bride. So harness all this and deal with those who are frustrating the efforts of development in this country. Now, the grid has collapsed for the 12th time. Who are those behind it? You see, if you have armed robbers in your estate and you don't move them out, and you are now increasing the number of vehicles you are buying, you are just wasting your time. See, by the grace of God, as a chief superintendent of police, I can tell you about crime mapping. I can tell you about criminology. I can tell you about what to shift attention on. What the UK did with Ekwuremadu's case, very painful for us as Nigerians, is to send a signal that you don't turn our environment to a modern slavery environment, that we detest it. There are things Indonesia is known for. Look at Dubai. At the time, Dubai even said, don't travel to our country, stay in your country. These are issues. How are we protecting the Nigerian brand and making it offerable for sustainable investment? And what we hear is that enemies of the state. There are enemies of the state everywhere. What differs is how they are dealt with. You don't go to China, you say you want to frustrate the economy of China. You know what will happen? You know what I mean? And so the president should wake up
let's have some people as samples. Implement your laws. Let people know oil theft is not allowed here. Let people know you cannot vandalize the energy infrastructure. If the national grid collapses, who are the people behind it? Who are those entrusted to make sure things are working there? Fire them!
Okay, but with this report, what would you have expected Mr. President to do?
Which report?
This amnesty report.
He should ask for the investigation and everything and come out clean to the world that this is where we are. Accountability means you present your own side of it also.
Right. Jide, I mean, adding to what Jibola said and your response now, what should Mr. President be doing? And so, is it also possible that this is, because again, this is not the first time that such allegations will be leveled against the military, not only by Amnesty International, even by communities and individuals. And so, how can Mr. President, through the military and other security agencies, strengthen accountability mechanisms? Because the military has also bluntly told Amnesty International, come and defend your allegations, bring your proof. And so there must be something they're also weighing on, knowing that maybe some of this proof, some of these allegations may not be proven beyond reasonable doubt. And so when we talk about accountability mechanisms, what should the country put in place to ensure that when allegations of such are brought up against the country, not only will the military defend itself, but, you know, the system itself will be able to, again, either make or mar or help such allegations?
It's clear. We have the Chief of Defense Staff. We have the Chief of Army Staff. We have the Federal Executive Council. We have the legislators. We have the arms of government that should take responsibility. And by virtue of Section 5 of the Nigerian Constitution, the 1999 as amended, the executive power is vested in the president. So the president at this point can invite the Chief of Defense Staff that, hey, come, give me a clean bill on this. You know what I'm talking about? Then we present it to the whole world. And if there are those who are found culpable, you deal with them so that the world will know that you are dealing with them. Let me take us to the impact of global interest. Do you know what gave birth to EFCC? I think around 2003, 2004. It was because the task force against money laundering at the global level accused Nigeria as one of the 23 countries frustrating efforts towards fighting money laundering.
Right.
And because Nigeria was named, then the then president, Olusegun Obasanjo, was the one who went ahead to create EFCC just to prove to the world that, okay, we are not against money laundering.
Right.
That is what we are talking about. You see, and when EFCC started, it was fantastic. You remember the days of Nuhu Ribadu? You know, in fact, at a point in time in this country, somebody had, you know, claimed to have been the friend of former President Olusegun Obasanjo, was jailed. The Inspector General of Police. You can read all these things up.
Right, tougher.
So let's be seen as a nation that we implement. Right now, even the Chief Justice of the Federation is demanding that judiciary be rebranded. People are talking about corruption everywhere. No! The impact is huge on the nation. And that's why some Nigerians will complain the moment they see you with green passport out there, you are like a suspect. Though I have not experienced that ugly interrogation, you know, when I travel around. And so the point now is that, like I said earlier, you cannot carve a rotten wood. You have to present, like they say, when you counsel people about finance and you see, you put your best foot forward.
Right.
You see, when you mention names of countries, that is what we are talking about. When you hear Germany is known for something. I heard at a time that if anybody is critically ill and that person still has about 7% life in him or her, fly this person to Germany. Their medical facility, fantastic. You see, you talk about Dubai, where they have zero tolerance for crime. It's not just, you remember when some citizens went
and they were fighting
to
and
rob
doing...
Bureau de Change. Where did those citizens come from? These are issues. Nations of the world want to be interested. That,
Who are these people coming in here? So please, they say charity begins from home. These allegations are allegations right now. Amnesty International is saying we have our facts, we have our findings. Then let us also match their findings with our own and complain across in the world. And let me say this, we will be celebrated when we present the claim bill that no, Nigeria is not one of the countries that we have, you know, ugly abuse of fundamental human rights. Because when you talk about this thing we are discussing, you talk about torture, you talk about death, you talk about rape, different kinds of allegations. And if they are true, I mean, there should be people behind them. You deal with them, but let the world know what you are doing. We shouldn't come to a point where people just think that, oh, in Nigeria you can get away with anything. No. It's a dangerous trend. Profiling.
Jide, I'm going to play a devil's advocate here. Beyond what is happening in those regions where we are fighting Boko Haram, even in the full glare of the public, we see what the military men do, where people are watching.
It's part of it, you know. You've taken me back to the experience of Chief MKO Abiola in his lifetime. I think it was maybe 1986 or thereabout, where he had a traffic issue with some Air Force officers and he was manhandled. So he reported to their boss, a man, and the man told him that when you touch the uniform of a military officer, that he becomes a mad dog. You remember that expression of mad dog. So it wasn't MKO actually that called them mad dogs. It's part of what we see. And this is part of the image profiling in public relations. You see, my younger one in the US, when I was on vacation, we were just gisting, and he said, my brother, that is a wonderful country, that he was coming from work and his car had an issue. That the police came, oh, are you all right? Are you okay? Helped him to change the tire and escorted him. You know, so that's what we are saying. So what experience do people have in your environment? I appreciate what is going on now, and kudos to this government. Encounters at the airports and the Minister of Interior, you know, my good brother. Before, some people were scared to come to Nigeria. Even as a citizen, I came into this country at a time from the US, and in the Murtala International Airport, I had to fight it out with them. They said I had many luggages and I should open, and they were asking me to come and pay for what? That I bought these things for my family, and they said they are new. Should I go and buy okrika for my family from America? As a lawyer, I had to fight them. That this is not how to go. This is how people profile your country. You remember at a time when some journalists went to the Nigerian border, I think Seme, and did all these things. So you need a very solid, presentable reputation. So, and it is the responsibility of the government, like you said. We are, even in Nigeria, we are still dealing with police brutality and things like that.
Even look at what happened between that general and that man and his wife. There's a particular,
beat them up
in Abuja.
In traffic.
So these are issues. But like I said, we were discussing on a light note at a time, and somebody said that the American president is the most powerful in the world. And an American responded, but maybe in the world, but not in America, because it's accountable.
Right.
And I may let us know that the president of Nigeria, by virtue of the Constitution, is so powerful. So powerful.
Okay.
And I hope that power is well used to reposition Nigeria.
Jide,
Please.
because you've been in a police training, and of course, if we liken this to what is currently happening in the military, is this also the time for all security agencies in Nigeria to move in line with global trends and embrace change even in their trainings. And so is this the time to start introducing human rights training in the operation discipline and cultural sensitization of men and officers of not only the Nigerian police force but also the military? Because again, it looks like sometimes when you're so used to a pattern, it forms your opinion and it forms your daily output. So is this the right time to start clamoring for some of these things, or are there things that are there at the moment and, you know, maybe they're just overlooking?
They are there,
they are
amazingly.
There. They're actually
Those trainings are there. But you see, it is at the implementation level that you have the ugly reflections. The trainings are fantastic. I mean, I attest to that. Go to the Nigerian police training school in Ikeja, you'll be amazed. I mean,
that the kind of training.
Excellent.
So why if the trainings are there, why is the implementation faulty?
It's left to those who implement. I have rolled out some, we call it acid test cases. Look at the allegations of corruption in this land. It's mind-boggling. But how many have been brought to book? In fact, we have moved to the advanced level that even when some are brought to book, they enjoy state pardon. You know what I'm talking about? So the big question is that, are we serious about discipline? Are we serious about righteousness? Are we serious about consequences? You know, you remember the Ikoyi gate, money recovered. Who stole this money? Can anybody tell me in this studio that? I'm still asking, and everyone should be bothered. Are the oil thieves operating in Nigeria, are they from Pluto or Neptune? Are they ghosts? And look at the huge poverty burden thrown upon the nation, upon the citizens. And let me say this, as part of the psychology of money, when some people become so rich, they start looking for trouble with their money. They are likely to be the ones troubling the land with their money because they can sponsor terrorists, they can sponsor thugs. If I'm lying, come and arrest me. Go and read the level of ammunition, the sophistication of ammunition available to this Boko Haram and Islamic States of West Africa. Sophisticated. Where did they get them from? How much is one AK-47? So these are questions. So please, I'm appealing that we allow the true nature of Nigeria that God intended to manifest. This should be the second richest country in the world. Why did the colonial masters come to Nigeria? If Nigeria is barren, who wants to bother coming to search for things here? You see, you are talking of crude oil, the largest deposit of proven gas in Africa, second largest deposit of bitumen. In fact, let me confront the National Assembly this morning. When you finish dealing with the
tax reform
bill, then let's come and discuss the mineral resources in this land. Move it away from the exclusive jurisdiction list. Let states manage what they have. Yes. Okay. Let Zamfara Gold be managed by Zamfara State. It can earn that state at least $2 billion annually. And if somebody chooses to put it in the hands of terrorists, we know that that is their own economy. Let Ondo State, Edo State, Delta State, let them manage their glass sand, their bitumen, their oil. Yes. So that people can get serious.
Right.
But you just see a group of persons that are not up to 20% of the total population holding Nigeria as if it's their generational gift from God. No, it shouldn't be. So National Assembly, Section 4 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended says you are empowered to make laws for the peace, orderliness, and good government in the country. So I'm setting an agenda now. Thank God the Attorney General has succeeded in the autonomy for the local government. And I said it here in this wonderful studio. that some local government chairmen may collect the allocation and
go and give it to.
congratulations.
At least you chose your path.
You chose
At
your
least
path.
we had some in Oyo State. I think we went from Oyo State.
So
They said they are no longer part of our God.
let me say this: by the special grace of God, no human being is created for poverty. If Nigerians think poverty is a way of life, it's an erroneous thought. What we deserve is prosperity. Go and read the Constitution. I'm challenging all of us this, but those who are listening to me, please spare me some of your data. Read from section 14 to section 18 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended. You'll be amazed at the provisions there.
Jide, before we allow
Do you even know, man? Do you know, sir, that the Constitution says the government should provide you maximum happiness, not just entertainment.
And that's why we have some states creating ministries of laughter and happiness.
Yeah.
Maximum
Affordable
happiness.
housing, affordable food. Go and read section 16, subsection 2.
The
You
fundamental
know,
rights.
reasonable living minimum wage.
We now have new minimum
Care
wage.
for the old.
We have renewed hope rise.
Reasonable living minimum wage, not just minimum wage.
Reasonable.
They are there in
Right.
the Constitution. So there are provisions for it.
Yeah.
Section 18 says everyone must be given access to education as much as it lies in the power of the state. And the Universal Declaration of Human Rights lists education as one of your fundamental human rights. And what's a fundamental human right? It's inherent, despite your status.
As long as you're a
or
citizen.
That you are a human being. You are
You're
entitled
human.
to a decent life.
Jide, let's quickly end this conversation this way. And now that the Amnesty International says they would institute a case against the Nigerian army at the ICC, can you take us through the process of initiating a case at the ICC?
The case has been filed there.
Right.
Yeah. And you'll be invited to represent yourself. You know,
So,
and coming back to the local environments, if you look at section 131 of the Evidence Act 2011 in Nigeria, you know, those who allege we call it the burden of proof. So Amnesty International will be proving those allegations as Nigeria defense. But you see, sometimes also, if you look at the meaning of denial, it says a lot. But the best form is to put your best foot forward. And if there are breaches within your borders, please deal with them.
okay.
You know, I mean, you know, when we talk about prosperity, look at Dubai. People bring in wealth into that environment. That's what we are talking about. You know, we don't want investors leaving Nigeria. We want investors flowing into Nigeria, you know, massively. And we have all it takes. We have over 40 mineral resources in this country.
Okay.
So you can imagine what we can attract. And that's why, once again, I want to appreciate our President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, on this international networking. But, sir, beyond the networking, create a home base that can, you know, offer sustainable investment platform for the investors that are coming.
Okay.
It's only a fool that want to go and invest in a place where those investments will be consumed by the economic circumstances and the people around. And on that note, I say I love Nigeria. It's a lovely country.
Before you conclude, is there a specific time that this case can be heard at the ICC?
It's up to them, you know, and
Just like in every.
let me say this. This is Nigeria. And we are talking about amnesty and the military now. What are we talking about next week? Who can guess? Several things happen.
Every day, every new thing
in
breaks.
1.5 months' time, maybe only those of us who research and can make
get back
reference,
on
and we
this.
discuss this at the time, we remember. Maybe in another 2 months now, if somebody that is heard to have sold a mining site in Jigawa State to somebody. And that's why also we need to hold things together. And I want to suggest the management by objective of Peter Drucker. that can we begin to set objectives for this nation? Where are we going? And I'm suggesting one this morning. Mr. President, sir, is it a cause that Nigeria should not have electricity, stable electricity? I mean, if that is all you can achieve in this first term, please do it for us.
Okay.
The enemies in that region, deal with them. Let's have it. Let's have something that will put us on the course. Nigerians are productive.
Okay.
Look at, you know,
Right, Jide, would have to leave
empower
this
them.
here. Would have to leave this conversation here this morning. But valid points you raised there at the end of this conversation and holding, Mr. President. I mean, and the way you put it is the best way. Is it a cost that Nigeria cannot have stable and steady electricity supply? Thank you so much, Jide Ologun, for being on the program today. We appreciate your thoughts.
Thank you. God bless Nigeria.
All right, we'll take a quick break. The conversation returns shortly.